Tactical urbanism is really a tool that invites you to be inventive and try things. Experiment, and like always, think about people and their life and their experience and their stories. I think it's always moving and it makes life.
Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Don't forget to follow Instagram account to see the stories behind the scenes, and also subscribe the YouTube channel to see the live talks. Let's get in touch on LinkedIn, share your reflections with us, with Urbanistica community. Recommend the podcast to people you think are interested in Urbanistica topics. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. Today we're going to talk about tactical urbanism. So I have the pleasure to welcome you, Elise, to Urbanistica podcast.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much for giving your time. So how are you doing?
I'm good. Had a really pleasant ride through the city before coming here, so it was appropriate.
Yeah. And how was your summer?
Very nice. Really enjoyed the Swedish nature.
Yeah, it was a more locally based vacation.
Staycation.
So where did you travel in Sweden?
I went to Padjelanta National Park, which is one of the first national park of Sweden, and hiked for 10 days.
Nice.
Without any cell phone service, no internet, anything.
And not listening to Urbanistica?
Absolutely not. Sorry.
So I would love that you introduce yourself and tell us about your passion.
Yeah. So my name is Elise Perrault. I have a background in urban studies, social sciences, and I've been working mostly with urban and regional planning. I have a passion and specialization maybe in inequalities, social inequalities, gender inequalities, as well as strategic planning. So questions of stakeholders engagement and medborgar dialogue, citizen dialogue. I don't know why Swedish is coming to my brain right now. I think what mostly interests me and what has been interesting me is also having the people's stories. I've been always really interested in hearing about how people live. Do they live differently, experience places differently, and so on. And I think, especially when you grow up and you're at school and you hear about geography or history, it's all very structured and it's all very black and white. And then suddenly when you ask a bit about people and when you ask people to tell them about facts, then it takes another dimension, basically. So that's what interests me.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So tell me, what are you working with now as a professional?
So right now I'm based in Stockholm and I work for Future Place Leadership. I'm mostly in charge of analyst and research work linked to urban policies. And I've been a part of our project linked to Nordic placemaking. Yeah. And the handbook just came out right now.
Yes. Congratulations. Really great handbook, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Hope you like it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. So thank you so much. And what do you think? Should we start talking about tactical urbanism?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the first question is, what is tactical urbanism?
Yeah, maybe a little precision is that I'm not an expert of tactical urbanism. We started getting interested by tactical urbanism in our Nordic placemaking work because, of course, it's an important part of the placemaking process, experimentation, short-term actions, etc. But also because we thought that the people involved in the project, municipalities and real estate developers, they had a lot of problems with getting started and getting people engaged. And we thought really that tactical urbanism, among other temporary urbanism tools, were interested to work with at the very beginning of projects in order to get the process started. And so tactical urbanism, what it is, it's short-term urban intervention. You can define it by short-term, small scales, it's also very easy, either because it's cheap or because you already have the resources. I think it's been described as well as a short-term action with a big impact. So there's also this idea of a purpose, of a meaning. You don't do it just because it's beautiful. You do it because you want change in the urban environment.
Yeah, so it's a tool and not a movement. It's not like a placemaking movement.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's also been part of a movement, to be fair. If you take tactical urbanism and the different initiatives within tactical urbanism, one of the most famous one, for instance, is parking days. Or if you think about seed or weed bombing, like in New York, they used to do these little bombs of soil and seeds and throw them to recreate biodiversity in the city. These, for instance, have become very viral, and a lot of cities today are doing this and are trying to implement them. A lot of activists worldwide are working with these tools. So they're really scalable tools. So in a sense, they are movements as well. And I think they're also a movement to the same extent as placemaking, as more and more people within the urban planning professionals are realizing that we need something else than strategic planning and big master plans. We need also more short-scale actions and working with communities.
Yeah. So who can be part of this? Is it only like professionals?
Not at all. Actually, tactical urbanism was born by activists and bottom-up initiatives. To come back, for instance, to parking days, it was a group of designers and artists that started it in 2005 in San Francisco, and they decided to occupy an empty parking place, and just by putting fake grass on it and just a bench like this. So it was a very activist movement, and it can be very simple. Like, for instance, another tool that they use, chair bombing. So deciding to come outside in a public space with your chair because you think that there's not enough seating places. So these are really like bottom-up bottom-up initiatives, sorry. And on the other hand, we see that municipalities and maybe more formal actors are using it as part of the planning process. So actually, I have an interesting graph that I can send to you afterwards that kind of show and explains the different types of tactical urbanism initiatives. And they use these two axes. On one axis, you have who's the tacticians. So from individuals, citizens, NGOs, and then more and more formalized organization to the top politicians' office, mayor's office, etc. And then on the other side, you have actions that are either informal, sometimes illegal, that are completely outside of the urban planning processes, and then more complex action that are engaged by the politicians themselves and then that are as part of the planning process. And I think we have seen a lot of these, for instance, during COVID-19 the past few months, but also in cities like San Francisco. To come back to this parking day afterwards, when it's became a big movement in San Francisco, the city of San Francisco initiated the Pavement to Parks program, where they also worked with parklets, which is a more formal mini pocket park that they use on parking spaces as well.
So the creator can be anyone, starting like from people in the community up to the municipalities. And I guess the user is the people within the area, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The target group.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share with us an example about the different steps? How is it going? Like,
it's really hard to say because of the variety of initiatives that it can be and the variety of actors that can initiate them. I think if you're a citizen and you have an idea, it can be very spontaneous and very nifty, so to say. But maybe it's also important to talk about what intentions you have. We said earlier that there needs to be a purpose with these sorts of initiatives. One of them is probably making a point, like pointing at the default in the urban environment. pointing at a problem, but also maybe for municipality, in the context of engaging actors, it could be proving that this idea is worthwhile and proving that it's worth to get engaged. Then maybe a second thing could be addressing an immediate issue, something that we've seen during COVID-19, making bike lanes or making pedestrian ways wider so people can keep social physical distanciation and adapting the urban space very fast. That's something that is important. I think, you, like me, we've been working with urban project that sometimes the last 18 years, so people get tired. And so I think it's also important to use these at the very beginning and be able to address immediate issues. Another thing that tactical urbanism can help with is experimentation. So instead of investing a lot of money in the solution, you test, you prototype. If I can take an example, the city of Rotterdam, they said to their citizens that if they wanted bike parkings, they could put a temporary one in front of their office space or their house. And if after 1 year people have been using it, then they will make it permanent. It's also something that has been used a lot with traffic design, extending the curbs or extending the pavement. First you paint, and then you test it, you monitor it, and then you make it permanent.
Yeah, so it's tactical urbanism provide the time and the place to experiment instead of investing in something really big and then it might not work.
Yeah, exactly. So it's also a help for municipalities that want to innovate in a way. It's, it doesn't engage you so much. It's not engaging so much resources either. And I think the last goal would be to activate a space or build an identity in a space that is not used. Again, it's something that was really well done in Gothenburg. They have this big waterfront regeneration project. And they worked in an area called Frihamnen, which is the former industrial harbor. And there they worked with a technique that is called place building, where they used prototypes to build a park, a public space, before the detailed program and the master plan of the space is finished. So they use that really to attract people in the place and start building this ownership feeling and this sense of belonging between citizens of Gothenburg that didn't used to come to this area and the place itself.
Yeah, so it's already like creating the story, and instead of waiting like 10 years for something to happen, but you can already start having starting the story with the prototyping and making people part of this area.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, when you do these paintings, for instance, or when you do the physical intervention, you can invite people and you can use that as a way to dialogue, to ask people what they want or how they feel about the space, how they want to get engaged in the future. So it's also a tool for citizen dialogue, I think.
Yeah. And Elise, we are talking, you mentioned different examples of tactical urbanism with the biking park and coloring or painting the path. Can we have it like in a bigger scale, or what are the different scales when it comes to tactical urbanism?
Yeah, again, very, very varied. I think it can be. The main thing is that it's small scale, right? We're not talking about a whole city. It can be a plaza, of course. It was done in New York a lot. But it can go, like I said, from building a seating opportunity to redirecting the traffic and transforming a plaza into a pedestrian area. So very different scales. Maybe in terms of time, I don't know if a lot of people consider that as tactical urbanism, but in the range of the temporary urbanization tool that we have, there's also something called transition occupation or transitory urbanism, which is also based on temporary, but you let actors occupy a space during a given time, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's often associations or people in need of cheap space. They directly have an impact on the space by being there, by adapting it to their use, and they also build relationships in the place. So it was done, for instance, in Nantes, where they gave opportunity to entrepreneurs that were looking for spaces to get involved, and now today you can find these entrepreneurs in the permanent space. But it was meant as an experimentation at first. It was also done. One of maybe the most iconic example I have in mind of transition urbanism is one in Paris. It was made by Plateau Urbain. The name of the example, Les Grands Voisins. And there it was in a big hospital that was empty, and the municipality of Paris let some actors occupy it and created some emergency beds and housing for migrants. They also had social entrepreneurship there and so on. And it was, and now they've been directly involved in designing the future of the place. So I'm not sure a lot of people would consider that as tactical urbanism, but it's show you a different scale maybe, where you have a temporary tool that has a long-term impact on the place and on the urban environment.
So what I understand now, it can be done also indoor, not only outdoor.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, because like recently also we saw, for instance, here in Sweden, a lot of sport fields became indoor sports fields became temporary hospitals. Can we consider this as a tactical urbanism for like the COVID?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a repurposing of a space. But yeah, we've seen that a lot. I think I heard some examples also of tactical urbanism in malls as well, to create more public spaces and proximity public spaces.
Yeah, for instance, here in Stockholm, in Galleria, in the downtown, they created a indoor skate park. So instead of renting like this area or this for a store, they just transform it to a skate park for young people, which is really great in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I mean, indoor spaces are big resources for the urban environment as well, and it's something we've explored also a bit in the project. Indoor spaces.
Yeah. So now tactical urbanism sounds really good and everything is positive, but there should be challenges.
Yeah, I'm not going to be exhaustive probably with that, but what I have in mind is probably conflict of uses, because especially when it's citizen driven, it's not necessarily that my opinion of what the urban environment is going to be the same one as yours. So there might be conflict of uses regarding this. I'm thinking even if it's the municipality that is in charge, there might be unexpected outcomes, right? Because we're still experimenting. In Paris right now, during COVID, they allowed, for instance, terrace of cafes to expand quite far, but the terraces were also taking space on the bike lanes and on the sidewalks. So that's a conflict of uses that was maybe unexpected from the municipality, and that can be problematic. I think another challenge might be to scale up or like go long term. You know, once you have experimented and you have your case, how do you gather money to go further? Do you reproduce exactly the same thing or not? And that leads maybe to the third challenge, which is monitoring and measuring if it worked. That can be a challenge.
And do you think like the funding is a big challenge when it comes to this kind of projects?
Not necessarily, because first of all, now they've become quite trendy. There's also this trend effect now, and you can see that you recognize the aesthetic that is borrowed from DIY urbanism, and it's all these very colorful things. So I think people are more and more open to work with this. That's what I see, and it has allowed you to make a point. So I think it can be used very strategically to convince a municipality or a partner that it's worth investing.
Yeah. So if we want to read more about how we can do it, some examples, where can we find information about this?
So there's a website called the Tactical Urbanism Guide, which has a lot of open source guidelines. It's really good. It's really well made, and it's really also made for everybody. So you and me, if we want to do something tomorrow, there's a lot of tools there. It's really well made. Then Better Blocks, it's a company in the US, and they also have very well done guidelines, and it's free. Then, of course, Tactical Urbanism by Mike Lindon. That was the quote, short-term action, big transformation or big impact. He wrote a book about this that is really good as well. And then I can recommend also the Help Yourself City by Gordon C.C. Douglas. Or if you don't want to read it like me, you can also listen to a podcast made by 99% Invisible that interviewed him, and it's a very good podcast.
Yeah, I listened to it. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really interesting because he discusses a lot of examples and a lot of conflicts and about the legitimacy as well. Yeah.
Cool. And we can find some information as well in the handbook that you created, right?
Yeah. So in the handbook, we didn't use the word tactical urbanism because there are a lot of concepts, actually. If you think about it, DIY urbanism, quicker, lighter, cheaper, acupuncture urbanism, etc., and they all really overlap. So we use the term temporary urbanism instead.
So you gather all of these in one category.
Yeah, exactly. And we also wanted to talk about events, which can have a big impact in the space as well, and maybe tactical urbanism doesn't quite cover that. Yeah.
How do you mean by event?
A concert or a neighborhood party or something like this. It can be also demonstrations or things like this. Just a gathering of people.
So like even shorter term of an activity.
It's not that it's necessarily shorter term, but it's also that it's doesn't necessarily involve an urban intervention. But the simple fact of having people gathered together in a place can have an impact. I think, I was just talking about demonstration, but if you think about women's night walks, for instance, which are walks created by women's activists to talk about safety and to help women feel safe in the public space, for instance, that's a very good example about how you're not directly changing the urban environment, but in a way you change the way people experience it and see it.
Yeah. The handbook is available online, right?
Yeah, it's completely free to download, and otherwise you can order a print copy from us.
Yeah, I will include the link, so if you're listening to this and you're interested in reading it, you can find it. Elise, how does tactical urbanism contribute to make our city smarter?
I think they contribute to make urbanism smarter and urban planning smarter in a way by making us think about different scales, by making us think about the human scale, by making us innovate and make us bolder in a way, and also forcing maybe partnerships. Yeah. And yeah.
Do you have any, dream project that you would love to work with?
In terms of tactical urbanism?
Yeah. Do you have some place you pass by and be like, I want to do something here?
I can tell you about a place where I wish they had done tactical urbanism. Just by where I live, there's a very poor bike lane where the bike lane is in the middle of the street instead of being on the side. So you have to cross the road twice. So I wish they had tested this design before making it concrete.
So it's already like fixed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's boring.
Yeah, it's painful.
Well, if you go back in time and you are allowed to change one thing in our cities, what will you change?
Yeah. That's a complex question. I think it's not at all related to tactical urbanism, but I think like a lot of people right now, something that's really frustrating for me and that makes me quite scared about the future is how dead our soils are, how much urbanization and concrete and urban sprawl have killed the fertility of our soils, how it has impacted biodiversity, but also how it's impacting us right now and making it harder to mitigate risk hazards like floods and heavy rains, but also increasing temperature. So probably if I were to come back in time and change things, I would come back to the 60s and try to make biodiversity and maybe imposing more stricter rules on how much urban sprawl is possible, and also be in green corridors and things like that, thinking more about biodiversities and how different species travel within cities and within the environment. Unfortunately, I don't think it's only an urban planning problem. Probably it's also linked to industrialization and how humans see themselves in the great scheme of species. So not everything can be solved by urban planning.
Well. Do you think our cities learned now to invest more in green corridors and more in paying attention to biodiversity? What do you see? You work with different municipalities in different countries, like in general.
I think we do. I think there's a lot of tools now that are available for cities, like the SDGs. I mean, in my country, we also have much tougher zoning and urban planning laws that make municipalities having to write a sustainable development strategy that is mandatory, but that also has an impact on the planning tools. So yeah, we have more and more tools, but you still see some absurd projects happening, and it's sometimes it's really frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. So if you add something to our cities apart from like biodiversity and greenery policies, what will you add?
If I more diversity, probably. I think we're still, and it's something we talk also a lot in the handbook, because we collaborated with an expert on safety as well. But this idea that it's not easy to not be a healthy person in a city today. If you're a caretaker, if you're a younger person, or if you're elderly, it's not easy. We have less and less urban furniture and good urban furniture. We also have less and less good public services that take care of people who are in poverty situation or excluded from social resources. So yeah, I think thinking about inclusion and diversity, not only from a physical perspective as well, but also from policy.
Yeah, very interesting. So how is your day when you work now? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm very lucky because I work in a co-working space in the middle of Stockholm, close to KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology. So it's a very diverse place. We're very small companies, and there are a lot of very small companies there, podcasters, urban enthusiasts, social entrepreneurs, and so on. So I'm very lucky for that. I go there almost every day. I work right now on adapting our handbook into e-learning program.
Well, tell me more about this.
Yeah, it's 8 weeks. It's completely remote, so you can do it at your own pace. But we're still planning on having workshops so participants can meet and discuss and exchange on their challenges as well. And it's based on the handbook, so we follow the same themes.
Yeah,
going deeper, of course. Yeah.
So okay, apart from this e-learning, what do you do else?
I'm working much more with research, so a lot of reading and translating this into maybe more approachable content for the people around us. A lot of case studies about what cities do in terms of policies and how they innovate.
Yeah, very interesting. So I wish you all the good luck with all the project that you're working with.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you so much. And as you know from the episode number 4 until now, a lot of changes happen in Urbanistica podcast, and we introduce new questions.
Okay.
So this question, it's about if you will be an animal, what animal will you choose? And why? This is very deep question.
It's very difficult actually, because I feel like how much I'm passionate for people and and cities. I don't think I'd like to be an urban animal. I don't think they really have an easy life around here. But so probably I don't know, a mountain animal, some kind of small squirrel or something like this that live in the mountain.
far away from the metros and
exactly.
city center.
Yeah. I mean, they eat better food. They breathe better air.
Yeah. Actually, that's sad, no?
Yeah, it's really sad.
I mean, sad that you're skipping from from the city.
But have you ever compared pigeons in central Stockholm and pigeons outside, more like outside of Stockholm?
I did that a lot. Not maybe in Stockholm, but like in Milan or other cities. I think the pigeons outside the city, they are more acting in a normal way, flying in normal way. Pigeons in the city, for me they are very weird. Like sometimes they are literally flying into you, or they eating whatever they see, or sometimes they stand whatever. You know, they are more aggressive or more.
Yeah. No, I used to live, when I first moved to Stockholm, I lived in Lappkärrsberget, which is just by the university in quite a green area. And I was shocked about how beautiful the pigeons were there. They were so
nice,
bright colors and very fatty.
Yeah, wealthy.
Wealthy, yeah, exactly.
So what is your favorite city and what is your favorite public space?
I don't think I have I don't think I have a favorite city. Yeah, it's hard. No, I don't think I have a favorite city, but I can tell you about my favorite public space for sure. It's called the 104, 104 in French. It's in Paris. It's an indoor public space. So actually, it's a cultural institution. It has a theater and a concert hall. But it's situated between two streets and makes the junction between two streets, and the whole middle of the space is of the building is completely free to cross. You can stay there. You can rehearse your choreography. You can do yoga, etc., etc. And often they have free photo exhibitions there. So I used to cross that area a lot on my wanders and walk in Paris, and it was always just so amazing, such a great energy and vibration in that space, because there were so many different people doing all kinds of things that you usually don't see in the public space. Playing music loud and like having very beautiful dances too, like quite talented people as well. And I really like this space, and talking about indoor public spaces like we did before. Maybe something that is worth mentioning is also the role of cities to ensure public services as well, accessibility to culture and arts, but also how maybe it's interesting to connect these places that provide the public spaces with the outdoor environment and create these in and out flows.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very beautiful place. You should send me the address later because
Yeah.
I would love to visit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Elise, for being a guest one more time. And thank you so much for all inspiration that you gave to us.
Thank you. And thank you for all the great work you do. I think you're the one inspiring us.
Thank you. So how would you like to summarize our conversation, your reflections, and 3 takeaway messages?
Yeah, maybe like be daring. I think in tactical urbanism is really a tool that invites you to be inventive and try things. So yeah, experiment, and like always think about people and their life and their experience and their stories. I think it's always moving and super, it makes life richer to ask people how they feel. And yeah, just enjoy good public spaces. We really need them right now.
Yes, great. Thank you. And 3 hashtags.
Yeah. Let me think. Cities for all, public spaces, and diversity.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast season number 2. I hope you enjoyed the episode, learned something new, and got inspired by the guest. And also please don't forget to share the episode with your friends, colleagues, and people you think they're interested in Urbanistica topic. Follow on Instagram account. You will see the stories behind the scenes before and after every episode we record in the podcast. And also don't forget to subscribe the YouTube channel to see the live talks and also to see the vlogs. If you have any feedback or you want to suggest a new topic or nominate a new guest, you can just reach out and write me. You can find me everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and also my email. So feel free to write me and share your thoughts with me. Thank you so much again for listening. I am Mustafa Sharif. Keep up the good work. Keep loving cities.